If you check your bank account from your phone, your tablet, or your computer, and you've ever clicked on a text message that looked like it came from your bank, I need you to watch this entire video, because last year alone, Americans over the age of 60 lost more money to online scams than ever before in recorded history, and the methods being used right now are more convincing than anything we've seen before. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which everyday online banking habits are quietly putting your savings at risk, and more importantly, you'll know the handful of simple changes that protect you almost completely. There's one scam near the end of this video involving artificial intelligence that sounds exactly like a voice you trust, and it's catching even careful, smart retirees off guard. Stay with me for that one. I'm your host here at Retire's Guide, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel exists for one reason: to help you keep more of the money you've spent a lifetime earning. Let's start with the number that should get everyone's attention. According to the FBI's most recent annual report on internet crime, Americans aged 60 and older filed over 200,000 fraud complaints in a single year, reporting losses of more than $7.7 billion. That's not a typo, and that's not an exaggeration for the sake of a dramatic video. That figure jumped nearly 60% compared to the year before. The average loss per senior victim was over $38,000, and more than 12,000 individual seniors lost over $100,000 each. I'm telling you this not to scare you, but because I think most retirees genuinely underestimate how organized and well-funded these criminal operations have become. This isn't some teenager in a basement anymore. These are professional operations, often overseas, running call centers, using sophisticated software, and specifically targeting older adults, because the data shows older adults lose more money per incident than any other age group. So let's talk about exactly how this happens, starting with the single most common entry point: phishing. Phishing was the single most reported type of fraud among older adults last year, with tens of thousands of complaints. Here's what it looks like in practice. You get a text message or an email that appears to come directly from your bank. It might say your account has been locked due to suspicious activity. It might say a large purchase was just attempted on your debit card and you need to verify it immediately. It might even include your bank's actual logo, the right color scheme, and language that sounds exactly like something your real bank would send. There's a link in the message, and when you click it, you land on a page that looks identical to your bank's real login screen. You type in your username and password, thinking you're securing your account, and in that exact moment, you've just handed your login credentials directly to a criminal sitting somewhere on the other side of the world. Here's the part that catches so many people off guard, and it's mistake number one on this list: trusting a link just because the message looks official. These fake messages have gotten so good that visual appearance alone is no longer a reliable way to tell if something is real. The logo, the color scheme, the formal language, none of that proves anything anymore, because anyone with basic software can copy those elements perfectly. The rule that actually protects you is simple, and I want you to commit it to memory right now. Never click a link in a text message or email claiming to be your bank. Instead, open your banking app directly, or type your bank's website address into your browser yourself, the same way you always have, or call the number printed on the back of your physical debit or credit card. If there's a real problem with your account, it will show up the moment you log in the normal way, and you'll have avoided walking straight into a trap. This connects directly to mistake number two, which is reusing the same password across multiple websites. I understand the appeal completely. Remembering a dozen different complex passwords is genuinely a hassle, and using one memorable password everywhere feels so much easier. But here's the problem. Data breaches happen constantly. At retailers, at email providers, at all kinds of websites that have absolutely nothing to do with your bank. When one of those companies gets hacked and your email and password leak out in that breach, criminals don't just try that password on the site that got hacked. They run automated software that tries that exact same email and password combination against every major bank's login page, one after another, thousands of times per second. If you've reused that password for your online banking, a breach that had nothing to do with your bank can still end with someone logging straight into your account. The fix doesn't require becoming a technology expert. Use a different password for your banking specifically. Make it something not used anywhere else. And if you can, use a password manager, which is simply a secure digital tool that remembers all your different passwords so you don't have to. Most are genuinely simple to set up, and a grandchild or a bank representative can usually help you get one running in about 10 minutes. Now let's talk about something that sounds technical, but is actually one of the easiest protections available, and that's multi-factor authentication, sometimes called two-factor authentication. This is the feature where, after you type in your password, your bank sends a code to your phone or asks you to approve the login from an app before letting you in. I cannot overstate how important this single feature is. Even if a criminal somehow gets your password, multi-factor authentication means they still can't get into your account without also having physical access to your phone. Federal investigators specifically recommend this as one of the single most effective steps anyone can take to prevent online fraud, and yet a large percentage of account holders, seniors and younger people alike, still have it turned off because it feels like an extra inconvenient step. I'd encourage you to think of it less as an inconvenience and more like a second lock on your front door. Yes, it takes a few extra seconds. Those few seconds are very likely the only thing standing between your savings and a stranger halfway around the world. Here's where I need to explain something that trips up even careful, well-informed retirees, and it ties directly into the multi-factor authentication code I just mentioned. Scammers have learned that the codes themselves are now the target. This typically plays out like this. You get a phone call, and the person on the line says they're from your bank's fraud department. They tell you they've noticed suspicious activity, and they're trying to protect your account. To verify your identity, they ask you to read back the 6-digit code that was just texted to your phone. This feels completely reasonable in the moment because you did just receive a code, and the caller seems to already know quite a bit about you. But here's the truth. That code was generated because the scammer was attempting to log into your real account at that exact moment, using a password they already obtained through a previous breach or phishing attempt. The code was never meant for them. It was meant to stop them, and the only reason they're calling is to trick you into handing them the one thing standing in their way. Your real bank will never call you and ask you to read back a one-time code. Not ever, under any circumstance. If anyone asks you for that code over the phone, hang up immediately and call your bank back using the number on your card. Let's move to something newer and, frankly, more unsettling. And this is the one I promised you at the beginning. Artificial intelligence has made it possible to clone a person's voice using only a few seconds of audio, often pulled directly from videos posted publicly online or from voicemail greetings. Federal investigators confirmed thousands of complaints last year specifically involving AI in elder fraud cases, with millions of dollars lost specifically to what's called the distress scam, where a cloned voice that sounds exactly like a grandchild calls crying, saying they've been in an accident or arrested or are in some kind of trouble and desperately need money sent immediately, often specifically asking for it to be done quietly, without telling anyone else in the family. The voice sounds completely real. It sounds like them because in a very real sense, it is their actual voice, just being puppeted by software. Investigators are explicit about this. Most victims of these calls never even realize artificial intelligence was involved until well after the money was gone. This is genuinely one of the most emotionally manipulative scams ever developed because it's specifically engineered to bypass your rational thinking by triggering pure parental or grandparental panic. The defense against this particular scam isn't about technology at all. It's about a habit, and it's one I want every single person watching this video to set up this week. Agree on a family code word or a specific question with your children and grandchildren right now, today, something nobody outside your immediate family would ever know the answer to. If you ever get a frantic, urgent call claiming to be a family member in trouble, ask for that code word before doing anything else. A real family member will know it instantly. A cloned voice running off a script has no way to know it at all. And beyond the code word, simply build in a pause. Every single fraud investigator who studies this says the same thing. These scams are built entirely around urgency, around the feeling that you have to act in the next 60 seconds or something terrible will happen. Tell the caller you'll call them back, hang up, and call that family member directly using the phone number already saved in your phone, not any number the caller gives you. If it's real, you'll reach them in seconds. If it's a scam, you'll have just stopped it cold. Let's talk about something a little less dramatic but far more common, and that's tech support scams, which cost older adults roughly $1 billion last year. This usually starts with a pop-up on your computer screen, sometimes accompanied by a loud alarming sound, claiming your computer has a virus or that your bank account has been compromised, and providing a phone number to call immediately. When you call, a friendly, professional-sounding person answers, confirms your worst fears, and offers to fix everything remotely if you'll just install a small program that lets them access your computer. Once that access is granted, they can see everything on your screen, including when you log into your online banking. Some of these scammers will even walk you through making a transfer to protect your funds, guiding you step by step while you do exactly what they tell you, sincerely believing you're protecting yourself. The rule here is absolute and has no exceptions. Never allow a stranger remote access to your computer, ever, regardless of how official or urgent they sound, and never call a phone number that appears in a pop-up warning. If you're worried something is genuinely wrong with your device, close the browser entirely, restart your computer, And if you're still concerned, take it to a trusted local computer shop or ask a family member to look at it in person. I want to spend a moment on something that affects how much protection you actually have after the fact, because this surprises a lot of people, and it has to do with the difference between fraud and what banks call an authorized scam. If a criminal breaks into your account without your knowledge and moves money out, that's considered an unauthorized transaction, and federal law generally requires your bank to investigate and reimburse you, provided you report it within the required window, typically within 60 days of it appearing on your statement. But here's the part that catches people by surprise. If a scammer tricks you into personally sending the money yourself, say by convincing you it's for a grandchild's bail, or a government fine, or an investment opportunity, and you used your own banking app to send it through a service like Zelle, that's currently classified by most banks as an authorized transaction, even though you were completely deceived. And under current rules, banks are generally not required to reimburse those losses, because from the bank's perspective, you initiated and approved the transfer yourself. This is an evolving area of law, and there's real pressure on regulators and lawmakers to close this gap. But as it stands right now, the practical lesson is this: prevention is dramatically more reliable than after-the-fact recovery. Treat any instant payment service the same way you treat handing someone cash directly, because once it's sent to someone you don't personally know, getting it back is extremely difficult, regardless of how unfair that may feel. Let's also talk about something simpler and more avoidable: public Wi-Fi. If you're at a coffee shop, a library, an airport, or anywhere offering free public internet, and you log into your banking app or website while connected to it, you may be exposing your login information to anyone else on that same network who knows how to intercept it. This isn't theoretical paranoia. It's a well-documented method criminals use specifically in public spaces. The fix is genuinely simple. Save your banking activity for when you're on your home network, or better yet, use your phone's own cellular data connection rather than public Wi-Fi when you need to check your accounts while you're out. If you travel frequently and this is a real concern for you, ask a family member about something called a VPN, which is a tool that encrypts your connection no matter where you are, though for most retirees, simply waiting until you're home or using your phone's data plan is more than enough. I also want to mention something many people overlook entirely, which is the security of your email account itself. Think about how much of your financial life flows through your email. Password reset links, statements, fraud alerts, confirmation messages, all of it. If a criminal gains access to your email account, they often gain a clear path into everything else because they can simply click "Forgot Password" on your banking site and intercept the reset link before you ever see it. Protecting your email with a strong, unique password and multi-factor authentication is just as important as protecting your bank account directly, and yet it's the piece almost nobody thinks about until it's too late. Now let's talk about the positive side of all of this, because I don't want this video to leave you feeling like the internet is simply too dangerous to use. Banks have genuinely improved their fraud detection significantly. Most major banks now offer instant transaction alerts you can have sent straight to your phone the moment any withdrawal, deposit, or charge hits your account, and I'd strongly encourage every single person watching this to turn these on if you haven't already. They take a few minutes to set up inside your banking app's settings, usually under a section labeled Alerts or Notifications, and they mean you'll know about unusual activity in real time, often before any real damage is done, rather than discovering it weeks later buried in a monthly statement. Many banks also let you set spending limits, lock your debit card instantly from the app if you misplace it, and review your full login history to see exactly when and from where your account has been accessed. Spend 20 minutes this week exploring your banking app security settings. Most retirees have never opened that menu, and there's usually far more protection available than people realize, sitting there unused simply because nobody showed them where to look. I also want to bring back something I've mentioned in previous videos because it applies just as strongly here: setting up a trusted contact person with your bank. If your bank's fraud monitoring ever flags something unusual on your account, having a trusted contact on file means there's someone else who can be looped in immediately, someone who isn't you and isn't the scammer, giving an extra layer of protection precisely when you might be under pressure or confused. This takes about 5 minutes to set up and costs nothing at all. There are 2 more situations I want to walk through before we wrap up, because both of them come up constantly from viewers of this channel, and both are easy to avoid once you know what to look for. The first involves fake banking apps. When you search for your bank's app in an app store, you'd assume the very first result is the real one. Unfortunately, scammers have gotten skilled at creating convincing imitation apps, sometimes using a bank's actual logo and a name that's nearly identical to the real thing, just slightly misspelled or with an extra word added. These fake apps sit in app stores waiting for someone to download them by mistake, and the moment you type your username and password into one, that information goes straight to a criminal rather than your actual bank. The safest way to avoid this entirely is to never search for your bank's app directly in the App Store. Instead, open your bank's official website, the same way you always have, by typing the address yourself or using a bookmark you already trust, and look for an official link to download the app directly from there. It takes 30 extra seconds, and it completely eliminates the risk of downloading an imitation by mistake. It's also worth glancing at the developer name listed on any banking app already on your phone. Your real bank's name should appear as the publisher, not some unfamiliar company you've never heard of. The second situation is one that's painful to talk about, but it needs to be said clearly, because it affects a meaningful number of retirees every single year, and that's romance scams that evolve into financial access. This typically begins innocently, often on a social media platform or a dating site, with someone who seems genuinely caring, attentive, and interested in building a real relationship, sometimes over weeks or even months. Trust builds slowly and naturally, which is exactly why this scam works as well as it does. Eventually, the conversation shifts toward money, sometimes framed as a temporary emergency, sometimes as a can't-miss investment opportunity they want to share with you specifically because they care about your future together. In some cases, the request isn't even for a direct transfer. It's for help fixing an account problem they're having, which can involve them asking for access to your online banking, your one-time codes, or even asking you to open a new account in your name on their behalf. I say this with real compassion because loneliness is a deeply human experience, and there's nothing foolish about wanting connection. But I want to offer one piece of guidance that financial counselors consistently recommend. If an online relationship, no matter how genuine it feels, ever begins involving money, account access, investment opportunities, or any request to keep the financial details private from your family, that is the moment to pause and talk to someone you trust in person before taking any further action. A real partner who genuinely cares about you will never resent you taking time to think something through or mention it to a family member first. That request for secrecy is, unfortunately, one of the most reliable warning signs across nearly every scam category we've discussed in this video, not just romance scams. I'll add one final piece of perspective here because I think it's genuinely encouraging. Government impersonation scams, the kind where someone claims to be calling from the Social Security Administration, the IRS, or a law enforcement agency demanding immediate payment or your personal information, nearly doubled in complaints from older adults over the past year. But here's the encouraging part. Every single one of these agencies operates the exact same way, and once you know their actual process, these calls become instantly recognizable as fake. None of these agencies will ever call you demanding immediate payment over the phone. None of them will ever ask you to pay using gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency, and none of them will ever threaten immediate arrest if you don't comply within minutes. Real government communication happens through official mail first, gives you time to respond, and offers clear ways to verify the request independently. Once you internalize that single pattern, an enormous percentage of these calls become obvious within the first 10 seconds, regardless of how official the caller ID looks or how stern and authoritative the voice on the other end sounds. Let's bring this together with the practical steps, because that's what actually protects you going forward. Never click a link in a text or email claiming to be your bank. Go directly to the app or website yourself instead. Use a unique password for your banking that you don't use anywhere else, and consider a password manager to make that easy. Turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere it's offered, especially for banking and email. Never read a verification code out loud to anyone who calls you, no matter who they claim to be. Set up a family code word for emergency calls, and always hang up and call back using a number you already know, never one given to you by the caller. Never grant a stranger remote access to your computer, and never call a number from a pop-up warning. Treat instant payment services like Zelle the same way you'd treat handing someone cash, because reversing those payments is extremely difficult once they're authorized by you, even under deception. Avoid logging into banking on public Wi-Fi. Secure your email account with the same seriousness as your bank account. Turn on real-time transaction alerts in your banking app, and set up a trusted contact person if you haven't already. None of these steps require you to become a technology expert, and none of them mean giving up the genuine convenience that online banking provides. The retirees who navigate this safely aren't avoiding technology, they're simply using it with a small amount of healthy skepticism built into their daily habits. A few extra seconds of caution, a habit of hanging up and calling back, a code word with your grandkids. These are small things that add up to real protection against criminals who who are betting that you won't take them. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, tap that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this channel before it's too late for them. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever received one of these calls or messages yourself, or if you've already set up a family code word. I'd love to hear how that conversation went, and I read every comment personally. And if there's someone in your life who handles their own banking online, a parent, a neighbor, a friend, please share this video with them today. This is exactly the kind of information that protects people best before something happens, not after. Subscribe if you haven't, ring that notification bell, because next week I'm covering a mistake involving credit card statements that quietly cost retirees hundreds of dollars a year without them ever noticing a single thing wrong. You won't want to miss that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.